All right, welcome back to Preview Review. This is the second edition. I haven't done this actually since December. Was the last time I did this for Star Wars, so it's been a while. But if you don't know what this is a new show I'm doing. Well, I guess it's not new now; it's almost a year old. But it it's only the second episode, so it's still in its infancy. But it's a show where basically I haven't decided really the boundaries of it. I guess I could just go for movies right now, but probably music and whatever stuff releases here in the future I want to do that this could apply for, I'll do. But basically what I do is I go and for this case, a movie, and before the movie, I do the preview. So this part of the episode is, and basically what we'll be doing is previewing Tenet, the newest Christopher Nolan movie. But towards the middle point of this episode, I will go and see the movie, and then I will come back here and have the review. And that's why it's the preview review. Get it? It's pretty simple. So today I have a good friend with me, Jack Quehl, who's coming with me to see the movie. Sadly, he won't be here for the review, but I'm sure he will have some interesting thoughts. And next time he's on, we can talk about the movie. But yeah, we have Jack Quehl here for the preview, a big Christopher Nolan fan, as I am.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this movie. I don't know. I think a lot of the build up too that's contributed to it is how late like its own opening has been delayed. Like it was supposed to open like July originally.
Yeah, I think so. Was it July or was it even before that? I thought it was like May.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I just know it's
I don't
been pushed.
remember either.
It's been getting pushed back like crazy.
Yeah,
long.
I thought it was supposed to be in May, and then they pushed it to July, and then they pushed it again to September now. Well, August, September. Yeah. But honestly, I'm just happy. I'm excited to go back to the movie theater. Honestly, that's the big thing. I'm excited to go back to the movie theater. And, we're going to be wearing our masks and stuff or whatever, but I'm excited just to be in a theater and see a Christopher Nolan movie on the big screen, in 2020. That would be nice. It'd be very, very refreshing. And I'm very excited for this movie. There's a lot to be excited for. But yeah, what would you say is your favorite Nolan movie up to this point?
That's a tough one. See, I like Nolan a lot because like every time all his movies are great. Like this isn't really a knock on him, but I feel like a lot of his movies are so complex that after you see them the first time, they lose like a lot of their luster in that like second and third view just because you like know exactly what's gonna happen.
Right.
Like, and it's not a bad thing against them because they're great movies. It's just kind of like the nature of like movies with like huge plot twists. Like when you know the plot, like it's a lot better when you don't know the plot twist than watching it again when like you know what the plot twist is gonna be.
Right.
So I mean, I'm excited for this, but I guess it's hard to pick like a favorite one of his movies because like there's a difference between the one that I would like rewatch the most and the one that I wish I could go back to like watching for the first time.
Right.
Because like
rewatchable,
it's the three Dark Knights. Probably Dark Knight Rises or not Dark Knight Rises, The Dark Knight.
So what would you say would be what for each of those categories? So your favorite and for rewatchable.
So like most rewatchable, I definitely say The Dark Knight. I think like it's still a really great movie, but
Yeah.
it's different than like the Dark Knights or the Batman series he did was just like a lot of the elements of his movies were tailored into it, but they weren't like his like other movies.
Yeah.
But then one with the biggest plot twist that I would like to see again, I think I would do The Prestige. That one was pretty
that's an
nuts.
underrated one.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of another one that I would rather like substitute for that.
Right. What did you think of Dunkirk? Because that's the movie he's coming off of.
I liked it. To be honest, like I remember like it was like a good thing to like a great movie to like watch because of the way they shot it and everything. But like it's hard to remember some of like just like the scenes in general, honestly, because it was like the whole movie was kind of like just super similar the whole time. I mean, obviously it was one setting on that beach, but like I think a lot of like in memory, like a lot of those scenes just kind of blended together.
Yeah. It lacked a lot of like memorable characters and like it had like like I think it was a really well done movie, and I liked how realistic it was, but
Yeah.
also at times it just was like, and it's a great story, but it just lacked like a lot of what we love from these kind of movies, which I guess was kind of refreshing at the same time, because it felt very like documentary style. It didn't feel like a
Yeah.
movie. There wasn't a lot of dead time for these characters to really breathe and get to know them, because like every scene is just another, you know, crazy set piece after another, and
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. I mean, I liked it, but I think I like 1917. I mean, I know that's World War One, and Dunkirk is a World War II movie, but I just think that movie kind of had that better. I think it did kind of the close encounter, like really tight, uh, claustrophobic scenes with these in this war setting better, in my opinion. But looking forward to this movie now, Tenet. What are your thoughts on it going in? What do you want to see? What are you excited for?
That's kind of the thing is like I really have no idea. Like I've seen the trailer obviously, but I
Right.
couldn't really tell you what this like movie's about. Aside that it's like spies and there's some sort of time travel involved, but
Right.
there's not like much of a plot you could really discern from the trailer, which I guess will be a large part of the movie too, because I've heard it's just super confusing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, it is.
But I've also heard it starts like really energetically and like with a bang, so like you just get locked in right away, which I'm kind of looking forward to.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and a thing I'm really excited for the most about this movie is just like Nolan in all his movies, he uses like his filmmaking as a way to tell a story or as a way to be a part of the story. Like, for example, in like Interstellar, like he took the time to like really make it as accurate as he possibly could, and like even from because he knew from a visual effects standpoint he could be able to like really make it look legit. And I think with this movie, he's gonna use like the reverse effects
Yeah.
and like those kind of time, because if you see the trailer, you see a lot of like that, and the movie's kind of like this. I guess it's from my understanding they draw energy from objects and allow them to move, opposite of normal gravitational pull. I mean, that's just my interpretation from watching the trailer. I know nothing about this movie, but I don't know. That's what it looks like. Or is it like them manipulating time? But whatever it is, Christopher Nolan, and I guess we'll find out when we see the movie, and you'll find out at the end of this episode. But what Christopher Nolan, I think, is going to be able to do is use those effects of like, you always see those like reverse effects, and like, when people pull things in their hands and use the force, basically, like, how people do that, like with video effects, like he's going to use that to a different level and use it, incorporate it in action scenes in a way that's believable to the story. And because it works for the story, he almost writes the story around the effects that he's able to do and the filmmaking feats he's able to do. So that's what I'm really excited for, is to see what else he does, because he's always just a trailblazer. He's always pushing the limits of what you can do.
Yeah.
And he shoots everything in camera too. Like everything is done there. Like all the explosions and stuff we're gonna see, I bet, are done for real. Like
That's awesome.
he always does that. So it's like, yeah, I'm excited for this one, but I don't really know nothing about the story. Like I don't understand. Do you think it's like time? Like is it like a time travel movie? Like because it's like,
I know there's like time bend, like I guess
Yeah.
time like bending is involved. Like
Yeah.
there is, but like there's also a line in the trailer that's like there's people in the future that need our help,
Right.
which kind of makes it seem more long term than just like like a 2 minute like time reversal or something.
right. So maybe there's like different like like there's like a levels of how you can manipulate time. Like there's like a spectrum. Like
Yeah, I really
you can
really
manipulate
don't
it
know.
for like a split second, or like for like an extended period of time you can travel. I don't know. We'll have to figure out what this
Yeah.
is about. It's hard to speculate when we don't really know. But I'm really excited for this one. I think it's just hard with some of these movies when you don't really want to know anything about the story. You don't really want to know the character. You don't want to know too much going in. So it's like it's hard to speculate.
Like I do enjoy the fact that like I don't know anything about
Right.
it a lot.
And that's what I love with these kind of movies, especially. Like With some of them, I kind of like, especially if it's based on a true story, like it's something like that. Kind of like, especially if I know what the story is already, it's something that it always kind of leans in your mind. You know where the movie's gonna go. It's just really about how well it's executed. But with this, it's completely different because it's going to be so complicated because that's how Nolan's movies are. They're very complicated
Yeah.
in story a
You're,
lot of the
yeah.
time.
Like, I feel like we're not going to know really at all exactly what's going on until like the very end of the movie.
Right.
Like, I think it'll be like that big of a loop of like connecting dots.
Right. Another example I just thought of Nolan using like filmmaking is in Memento.
Yeah.
Because of how he uses like the whole story being told out of chronological order, basically told in reverse order. Like it's kind of how you remember things. Sometimes you remember the most recent thing, and then as you regain your memory,
yeah,
But yeah, it's really, really, really well done. But that's what I kind of want to see him use and expand action and do action scenes that we've never seen before. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. Because this is supposed to be this is a spy movie, right? Because he had said a couple of years ago he was actually kind of rumored to direct the James Bond movie that was supposed to come out.
I do remember that.
In April or whatever. So he was supposed to do that, and then I guess he came up with the idea for this and said, "Hey, I'm just gonna do my own spy movie." Yeah, we got a lot of outside ambient noise doing this on the porch, so we got nature. Hear it, but yeah. So like, I just want to see him do like new action scenes, like new stuff that we haven't seen before. But like, I don't know, do it and then edit it in a way that's different, and almost like shoot an action scene one way and then like edit it in a way that makes it completely new. Which is what I feel like. I feel like the editing is really going to be the show in this movie. That's my my prediction.
The editing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the way it's all put together.
I mean, a lot of, like Inception was on like an editing level like crazy too.
Oh, of course. That's what I kind of like think of this movie as going to be like a Memento mixed with Inception. Because you got like the time, stuff, but then you also have, the abstract, effects and all that. So I don't know. And it's kind of like that was like a heist movie, and this is like a spy movie. So I like how Nolan's like doing a bunch of different types of movies. Like he does he does so many different types of movies. He's done the superhero movies. He's done, a space adventure movie.
War
crime movie, war movie, now a spy movie.
Yeah, that is
he's
impressive.
Done crime dramas with Insomnia, which is an underrated Nolan movie. Following, which is like his first movie, which is probably his weakest one. I've only seen it like one time. I saw it like a couple years ago. It's good. It's just like it's okay. But Insomnia is really good. I also love, obviously, Memento, Inception, Prestige. We were talking about the Prestige earlier, weren't we?
I feel like it's just you just gotta say like they're all good.
They're
like,
all
that's
good.
What you just gotta say.
They're all good.
Can't really pick a favorite.
I'm just listing them off to see if I can just remember anything about any of them specifically. What was the first Nolan movie you saw in theaters? Dark Knight? Or Batman Begins? Did you see Batman Begins in theaters?
I definitely didn't see Batman Begins in theaters. Dark Knight, I actually don't even remember if I saw that in theaters. But I don't think there was a movie like, I don't know. It might have been Inception. But it would have been Inception if I didn't see Dark Knight. But I can't remember if I saw Dark Knight in theaters or not.
Yeah. Dark Knight's good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Batman trilogy was unbelievable.
Yeah, we saw Dark Knight Rises in theaters.
Yeah.
I remember we stopped at the, what was it? It was a Target right next to the movie theater. And we got a bunch of candy and then brought it in and ate all of it.
Oh, that was for like the midnight showing?
Yeah,
we thought like there was going to be a
premiere.
line, so we showed up at like 5 p.m. and there was no one in line.
There's nobody
for
there.
like literally 4 hours. Like we just sat and completely empty except for us, like queue, like just waiting for like 4 hours.
But honestly, like it just made the hype even more. Like it made
Yeah.
us more excited to see it because like we all love
We
Dark Knight so
dedicated some
much.
time.
We all love Dark Knight so much that like we were all so excited for that movie. Like that was, and it delivered. I still love it. I love it. I think it's so underrated.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate on it, but
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
yeah, I think it's really good. But also, Interstellar, I love too. I love that movie. I think that's like his best shot movie. Like but I get that the ending is kind of my least favorite part. I think if they chopped the last 20 minutes off, it'd be a perfect movie. Like, end the movie, cut the credits as soon as he spirals out in space. At the end, and then when he wakes up at the end.
Yeah.
They should have cut it right at that part when he spirals out in space, and you can just see out in the distance a little ship coming to pick him up. That'd have been sick if they just left it on that cliffhanger and say, does he get picked up or not? Because like the last 20 minutes are just kind of
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
They're not that good. They're definitely the worst part of the movie, and it just adds on to the runtime. Like I actually on my laptop, when I had the movie downloaded on my laptop in high school. Sorry, people, I was a pirate. But yeah, that was my old days. Anyway, yeah, I had the movie, and what I did was I went and I chopped the last 20 minutes out and just put the credits in, and then watched the movie like that, and it's way better.
Yeah, but don't you still think like that that's not how it actually ends though?
Yeah, but in the back of your head. But like, I tried to put myself in like if I was watching it for the first time.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, I do think that movie ran a little too long, which I hope. I don't even know. Do you know how long this is gonna be? This movie? I don't know. It's kind of a strange question to ask. I can look it up.
See.
But I think it's definitely gonna be over 2.5 hours because that's Nolan. But hey, honestly, I'm so down. I would be disappointed if it wasn't. Like, that's not a complaint. That's just an observation because I love that. He's like one of the few directors that can get away with making a super long movie. It is 2.5 hours exactly. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this movie it's gonna be good. It's gonna be big. It's big money. Christopher Nolan, his movies are expensive. He's gonna have big effects. It's gonna have, this is a $205 million budget. It's already made $7 million opening weekend in the UK. 53 million worldwide as of Tuesday night. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for this movie. I think it's gonna be. I think it could be one of his best, depending on how good the action is. Depending on who. Oh yeah, also the cast is really good. Robert Pattinson's in this, of course. John David Washington, who I think is a really good up and coming actor, and he did a lot of stunt work for this. So I've heard. Saw that online, but yeah. I think the cast is really good, and since Nolan does a lot of stuff in camera, it helps with the actors. So
yeah,
he always gets good acting. You know what you're gonna expect, in that department. So going in, any last expectations?
I'm just excited. Like, I just hope that it's not disappointing, and I don't think I don't think that'll happen at all. Like, I think it's gonna be really good. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen a movie that I know is gonna have like a crazy ending, but I don't know what the ending is.
Right,
and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. Yeah, and that's the thing. The trailers were good for this movie because with trailers, sometimes I get turned off from watching them just because they give too much away. But these trailers were good because they don't really give a lot of plot away. I mean, obviously, with these movies, it's hard to give a lot away because it's so complex a lot of the time that you just need to watch it multiple times to really understand it. But, we'll see what happens with this. I'm really excited to see what this has to offer. And will we get another great film in the Nolan, collection? Probably, because, this guy just gets it. He gets it. He gets actors. He gets special effects. And he's a trailblazer. He's been doing it for a while, and he's getting better and better every time. So, that's all I got. That's all you got.
Yep.
So we're gonna go see this movie, and then I'm gonna come back here for the review, and I'm gonna review this movie. So I will give a spoiler warning to those who have not seen the movie. You guys can go pause this at that point, and then come back. So I will be seeing you guys at a later point in the night. Peace. We're back, and it's now time for the review. Sadly, I'm alone here. Jack had to go. You know, it's late. It's almost midnight, and I just got back from the showing of Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, my first viewing. So this is the review section, so there will be spoilers. I'll be talking about the film. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give my spoiler warning here very soon. But first, I just kind of wanted to talk about my thoughts on the movie without spoiling it for anyone that wants to see it. I'm not going to give anything really away here. I'm just going to say that it was a really entertaining movie. There's some really great action. If you haven't been in a movie theater in a while and want to do it, this is the movie to see. I will say that. It definitely doesn't treat its audience like idiots. So I admire it for that. And yeah, so let's get into spoilers because this movie has a lot to unpack. I'm going to try and dig into as much of it as I can remember off the top of the dome because, to be honest with you, it's a 2.5 hour movie and I've only seen it one time. So I'm just going to completely try and recall my favorite moments that stuck out to me, whether for the better or for the worse. But first, I want to give the spoiler warning. So if you have not seen Christopher Nolan's Tenet, this is your chance to pause this, go see the movie, and then after you've seen the movie, come back to this moment and continue listening. But if not, if you don't care about the spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie, if you have plans of seeing the movie, then please stick around. I encourage you to listen just if you want to hear my voice, whatever the reason. But I'm going to give my spoiler warning. So if you've not seen Tenet, this is your final warning because I'm going to be talking spoilers in 3, 2, 1, spoiler time. So, wow, this movie, I will say, as I mentioned, looking in, I was hoping this would be a technical feat, and I can honestly say it is. My prediction of the editing being the star of this movie, I think, is really true, and it does ring true. I was pretty right about that prediction, which is something that doesn't happen very often. But this movie looks great. I mean, the editing, like I said, is incredible. What they were able to do with explaining how this inversion works and doing it in a visual way made it so much easier for you to wrap your head around. At least it did for me. However, at the same time, there's a lot in this movie that is not as easy for you to wrap your head around, which, again, we'll get into. But talking visually about this movie, I mean, what they were able to do with reverse video and forward playing video, and how they were able to mix the two and blend the two. Like there are plenty of shots in this movie where, you know, one person is walking forward and everything around them is in reverse. And it's amazing how they were able to edit this. This movie will definitely have a best editing Oscar. I think there's it's going to be very hard to debate that because this movie looks really great. And I mean, off the bat, you get some great action in this movie, which the action is really fun. It's really exciting. And Nolan does build some good tension. I don't think he builds as good of tension as he did in, say, Dunkirk or some of his other films. But there is some really good suspenseful scenes. I mean, this movie off the bat starts off with that the opera scene, which is super in your face. It's loud. You get, I guess, these guys with guns coming in to the opera set, and this is really where you get the introduction to John David Washington's character, who doesn't. I don't even think he has a name in this movie. I think he's just kind of. I don't recall him actually having a name. But he's just kind of, the narrator, the, protagonist, whatever. He refers to himself as the protagonist in the movie. So, yeah, that's pretty much what he is. He's the narrator. So basically, you get introduced to him in that scene, and you get some cool uh, action there. From what I can remember, I really thought it was a really good, intense opening sequence. But then they just drop you into a bunch of exposition. You get a lot about John David Washington's character, uh, Elizabeth Debicki's character as well. You get some backstory on her. I think that's her name. Uh, she's really good in the movie. I actually really liked her character. She got a lot of screen time in this movie. And obviously, they really lean on her being the mother, with the child. And you just don't really get enough of that for me to really care. I think that's not enough. I'm sorry. It's not enough for that to be the only emotional weight in this movie, which it kind of is. Yeah, it is Elizabeth Debicki. I just looked it up. Yes, shout out to her. She was really good in this movie, but again, we'll get into characters in a moment. I know my brain is going everywhere. This movie goes everywhere, so I'm trying to stay on narrative, but it's hard because this movie jumps around a lot. There's a lot here. It's a lot to unpack, and it's definitely a movie I feel like I'm going to appreciate more on multiple viewings, just because there is so much of this movie that this movie leaves you in the dark for pretty much the first half of it, and then I'd say about midway to 3/4 through the movie, you really start to get a pickup on what this all means, and then at the end, you get the big reveal, and by then it just. We'll get into my complaints. I mean, I know I'm pushing a lot of stuff off here, but there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. But let's talk about visuals. So, visuals and action. We'll get to that, and then we'll get to characters, and then we'll get to my problems with the movie. And then we'll get to my final thoughts. But as for the visuals, as for the action, wrap that up, and then we'll get into characters. The visuals are great. The movie looks amazing. It's a Nolan movie. The music also. We'll mention that as well. Ludwig Göransson did the track for this one, the soundtrack for this one. He composed it. Man, really awesome, really awesome score. Really hard bass throughout this thing. Really loud, really in your face. The music is really great. We all know that from a Nolan movie. I mean, this movie has a lot of the things that we love about Nolan movies. Great action, a story that doesn't treat you like an idiot, a story that makes you think, a story that doesn't give you all of the answers up front. It's a lot of those things and that we love about Nolan movies, and this movie has it. But it also has some of the problems that we have that a lot of Nolan movies have faced. And now we're going to get into character. The characters in this movie are very hollow, I will say, and they're almost a little too hollow, to the point where you just don't. I just found myself not really caring about these characters that much, and I know that's a shame to say, but there just wasn't enough characterization here. There isn't enough, and maybe that was done intentionally, but if so, this story needed it a lot more than say Dunkirk did. Because in Dunkirk, that was my same gripe I had with Dunkirk, was that there was no characterization, there was no real narrative. It was just a bunch of really intense scenes back to back to back. And this one is kind of like that, but there is definitely a narrative. The story really overrides the character in this movie, though, and I kind of noticed that about the first act of this movie. The first act is definitely the weakest part of this movie. Like I said, there's a lot of exposition dump right after I like how it opens up with an action sequence, but then there's a lot of exposition after that for the next, 15 to 25 minutes. I can't remember, but I just remember it dragging on a little too long before we actually got to the point of where we were heading. But when you find out about pretty much, Elizabeth Debicki, her character talks about the scene that we obviously see play out towards the end of the movie, with her slamming the raspberries or whatever those were on the ground on the ship, on the boat. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie, which you have or have not. Who cares? But you know what I mean. It's a lot of abstract stuff thrown in your face at first. A lot of little nuggets that obviously get payoffs at the end of the movie, but by the time you get there, if you forgot about them almost, and you almost forget about it because you're not really grabbing onto these characters the way that I think the movie thought you were going to. There just isn't enough here emotionally between John David Washington's character, Robert Pattinson's character, Elizabeth Debicki's character. And then, look, all the actors are great, and I love John David Washington. He is really good in this movie, and I think he has a lot of charm and a lot of charisma, and he does what he can with this role. But I just think this character, the writing of this character, is really, really kind of hollow. Not really hollow, but kind of hollow, and there just isn't any emotional weight to this character. The only emotional weight you have is that he feels sympathy for Elizabeth Debicki being a mother to her daughter, her son. But outside of that, he really has no emotional reason to care about this situation that he finds himself in. Another thing about this movie is I think this movie could have benefited from maybe 1 to 3 jokes in this movie. And I'm not saying like overtly ridiculous jokes. And this doesn't need to be an action comedy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying little subtle jokes about, and not necessarily jokes, but even just a little bit of self-awareness could have really helped this movie, because it is just such a ridiculous, convoluted plot, I think. And I think Inception did a good job of kind of bringing a little bit of that levity into how ridiculous it was. But this movie, I think it takes itself a little too seriously for its own good, especially for what is an homage to the spy genre. And you get a lot of that, espionage and, going undercover. He goes undercover as the Ukrainian or Russian soldier, whatever that was, and in the beginning of the movie. And then obviously the firefighter chase sequence, which is incredible, by the way. You see him in that, and that whole highway chase sequence is the best part of the movie. It is incredible what they were able to do with that. It looks amazing. Also, the final action sequence at the end, where they have that building that is being blown up by 2 rockets at the same time, but one obviously is inverted and the other is not. And when it hits, the building explodes and then implodes and then explodes again. It was really crazy to see. And like I said earlier with the visuals, it's amazing what they were able to do with this movie from a technical standpoint. I mean, Christopher Nolan is one of the best technical filmmakers that we've seen in the past 20 years. I mean, there's no denying that. And he's really pushed the envelope with this one technically, but the story and the characters are really where this movie kind of fell off for me and where I didn't like it. And like I said earlier, with all, a lot of the lead characters I didn't love, but the one character I did really like was Kenneth Branagh's character. He's the main villain of this movie. I really liked this character. I thought he was really menacing, really scary. He definitely pulls no punches. He is a really tough villain. And I liked that. He really does a lot of good stuff in this movie. He goes for it. He really goes for it. You can tell he's Branagh really went for the over-the-top villain, but it works for this movie, in my opinion. I thought, he was definitely one of the highlights when it comes to characterization. Him and Elizabeth Debicki's character were definitely the strongest written characters in this movie. And as for the others, Pattinson and John David Washington, when we're speaking about the leads, they were fine. They were really great, but the characters, the writing of the characters, were fine. But the acting was really good. I mean, like I said, I've loved Robert Pattinson for a long time. I've been a huge fan of him, and not a long time, but past couple of years. And John David Washington, like I said, is one of the best up and coming talents, and he does a lot of great stunts in this movie. You can tell he's doing them too. I mean, he definitely put himself through a beating, but the final product, I can say, is really impressive. So, let's talk about what I didn't love about this movie. So the first thing, like I mentioned, was the characters. Didn't love a lot of the writing, but I think that this movie is just way too plot heavy. And when I say that, I mean that it's just, they throw a lot of heavy dialogue at you in the beginning of this movie, and there's a lot of scenes throughout where they just have to remind you what's going on, because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of, jumping through time. There's a lot of, manipulation of time and space throughout this movie that they want you to believe while at the same time trying to tell a really convoluted spy story. And I think that just the complication of this movie piles on top of each other to the, if you know what I mean, like the complicated aspects of this movie pile on top of itself to the point where you're just sitting there wondering what's even happening. And maybe it's that I'm not smart enough to pick this up, but I would say that for a Christopher Nolan movie, and I've seen every Christopher Nolan movie, this is definitely one of the hardest for me to pick up on first viewing when it comes to just flat out narrative. I'm not even talking about themes and, you know, ideas. I'm talking more from what is the point of this story? Like, where does the story line up? And I think when I watch this movie more, that's why I feel like I'll appreciate it more as I kind of go back and watch it, because when the big twist happens at the end and they all kind of, when they're all standing there and they each take a piece of the what do they call that? The algorithm or whatever that thing is, the metal thing that they all take thirds of, him, Pattinson, and then the other guy that I didn't know the name of. When they all take those parts, and Pattinson's kind of explaining to him how you're going to meet me in the future. Well, your future, my past. So I'll see you in your future or something. You know what I mean? That end part, they dump all of that on you, especially with the backpack and a lot of like the hidden visual cues that they give you. They dump it all on you kind of at the last minute, in the last 20 minutes. And it kind of just left me like, okay, like I wish they would have kind of dispersed it out throughout the movie with those plot reveals and kind of helped you put the puzzle together instead of just throwing all the pieces at you at the end and saying, okay, here's the puzzle, when in reality it's just, here's a bunch of information, now go back and watch the movie again and put it all together, when the fun of it is putting it all together as you watch it and as you learn about these characters, which you don't really in this movie. So that definitely hurts it. But look, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I think it's a really good movie, and it's definitely one of the best movies of 2020 so far. And on top of that, it was just a relief to be in a movie theater. It was a relief to be in a movie theater again. And look, I wore the mask. We sat down, but there wasn't a person within 15 feet of us. There was people up in the top rows. We sat like, I think, fourth row back in IMAX, Regal's RPX theater. That's where I saw it. And let me tell you, the one complaint I have with this movie, and it was my biggest complaint, is the sound mixing of this movie. And I don't know if it was my theater that I was in or if it was the movie itself, but the dialogue was really drained out in this movie. And there were so many moments where I couldn't hear a damn thing that anyone was saying. And that's probably why I didn't really understand this movie as much as I probably will if I watch it again. But I don't know what the hell they were thinking with the sound mixing, because the visual aspect of this movie is amazing, but the sound sounds good, but the dialogue is so drained out by the music and by the ambient sound and by the sound effects and everything that's going on in the scene that you don't even understand what's happening half the time, because you can't understand what people are saying. And I don't know if this was my theater or where I was sitting or what, but I've never had that experience in an IMAX theater before where I could not hear dialogue. So I could distinctly not hear it. Like, it was almost drained out. And I had this problem a little bit in Dunkirk, but it wasn't that big of a deal because, that movie's pretty visual as it is. There isn't really a lot of dialogue in it anyway. But this one is very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of quick, really intelligent, jargon-filled dialogue that explains really this complicated plot. And when you can't hear it, that definitely affects the overall outcome of the film for me. And yeah, it definitely hurt this movie for me. And I don't know if that's because of the theater or what, but maybe on the second viewing I can, get a better understanding of some of the dialogue here. But like I said, it was pretty disappointing just to, have that happen. And I hope that wasn't Nolan that was doing that and it was the movie theater, because if so, that's, that sucks, because that was definitely my biggest complaint with the movie. I couldn't believe how drained out the dialogue sound. I couldn't tell if it was me, if it was the theater, if it was the movie. I'm like, and I was just like thinking in my head, I couldn't tell, but yeah, it was something. But some of my favorite scenes, some of my favorite standout scenes. Let's talk about the airport scene where they go through the and steal the painting. That was an awesome scene. That may have been my favorite scene of the entire movie. That one or the highway chase scene. But I like how they go back and revisit those scenes at the end of the movie and explain some of the holes that they drop. Like obviously the guy in the black suit that comes in when they're stealing the painting and they're like, there's another person in here. They realize later that that's John David Washington's character going back in time. That was a really cool moment, because you see him get sucked up in the propeller there towards the middle of the movie when that scene happens for the first time, and then it isn't until later that you realize that that person got sucked with the propeller was just John David Washington's character from the future. So, really a cool thing, and that's the thing. This movie it asks a lot of the viewer. It does. It asks a lot of you. You really have to be paying attention and listening to every line of dialogue. So my advice to you is if you haven't seen this movie, well, at this point, I'm sorry I've already ruined it for you, but if you haven't seen it, please just listen to the dialogue. That's my advice. Listen to the dialogue. But some other standouts, like I said, the final battle sequence, I liked how the idea of the red and blue team, red and blue obviously being symbolic of the two rooms when they first find out, which was an awesome scene. The interrogation scene where Kenneth Branagh has Elizabeth Debicki with the gun on her, and he's like, "I'm gonna shoot her if you don't tell me where the algorithm is or whatever." And then, obviously he goes forward in time, I guess, to being right next to John David Washington with the gun. And he's like, okay. And then John David Washington tells him the address, and then he goes back in time to try and reconfirm that the address that he told him was the right address. But then it ends up being a lie anyway. So, there's just a lot here. And it's just me right now. I'm just with this review, I kind of wanted to just be a stream of conscious where I'm just kind of regurgitating what I saw and giving my initial reaction. Because obviously, when I give this a grade here in a few minutes, it's not going to be the final grade. My grades are not final. You can get extra credit. If I like the movie better when I watch it a second time, which I think I will with this one, as most Nolan movies increase in value as you watch them. And I think this one will also be that case just because there's so much on the front end that's kind of left in the dark, and it isn't until the back end that you actually realize what it is. But anyway, I was talking about the scene with the red and the blue teams before I got distracted. But the red and the blue scene, I thought that was a really cool way to kind of do a battle sequence. I didn't think this movie was going to have like armed weaponry battle sequences, but we got one, and it was really cool. And I loved how the red team's moving in forward in time and the blue team's moving backwards in time, and how they were able to shoot that. It was really amazing. Like, there's so many sequences in this movie where you're just like, how do they shoot that? How did they, like I said, the fire truck sequence that I mentioned from earlier, how did they shoot that? How did they get all those trucks all aligned with each other on a highway strip? It was really amazing what they were able to do. But like I said, this movie, it really surprised me though with the action. I think the action definitely pushes the envelope. I love the hand-to-hand combat in this movie. You see a lot of it. There's times where someone's moving forward in time while someone's moving backwards in time at the exact same time. Well, obviously you see that throughout the movie, but within hand-to-hand combat, like two guys that are fighting each other. And that's where it gets really fun, and especially with the scene with John David Washington fighting basically the future version of himself in the art museum or exhibit, which happens to be connected within an airport. I didn't really 100% understand that, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about this movie. But I'm gonna get into final thoughts and grading it. My final thoughts though on this movie, it's really good. I thought this was a good movie. Where does it stack compared to other Nolan movies? To be honest, I think this is one of Nolan's weaker films. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't love this movie. If I'm being honest, and I've loved a lot of Nolan movies, and I wouldn't say I love this one, but I do like it, and there's a lot to love here. The visual aspect of this movie is incredible. The acting is really good. The music is great. The set pieces are really unique and really well thought out, and the physics and basically the way that inversion works is so complicated. But I kind of started to pick up on it towards the middle of the end of the movie, and they do try to do a good job of explaining it. And I think as I watch the movie more and more, that will become less and less pertinent to me as I understand it more and more. But look, I'm always for these kind of movies, especially Christopher Nolan movies, where he always pushes the envelope, not only from a filmmaking standpoint, but from uh, you know cinematic standpoint when it comes to people connecting with the film. And I think a lot of people are going to watch this and be really entertained. And you know, but with that comes problems. And this movie for me, it lacked a lot of the emotional resonation that I think it could have benefited from. It lacked a lot of the characterization, especially from Robert Pattinson, John David Washington's character. I mean, they really don't have any sort of back story or any sort of humanity to them outside of being really likable characters. But look, they don't. It doesn't ruin the movie. It doesn't make the movie bad, and it's not the actor's fault. It's more of the writing's fault. It's more of Nolan's fault. And and characterization's always been kind of an issue for him. We saw it in Interstellar. We saw it in Dunkirk. So that's fine, but it could have made this movie a lot better. And a lot better. Adding some more emotion to this, even if you added a romance or something, anything could have, any sort of emotional pull outside of the mother and child dynamic, which wasn't really that explored anyway. That was a little bit weak to me. I think that was a weak part of this movie, and they really rely a lot on it, especially towards the end of the movie, when they want you to care a lot about Elizabeth Debicki's character and her relationship with her child and her relationship with Kenneth Branagh, and you just really don't. And yeah, like I said, the characterization, all of that. I think this movie just doesn't really flow as well as a lot of Nolan's other movies. And like I said, it could have used a little bit of levity, not a whole lot, because I know this movie is trying to take itself really seriously, and I'm fine with that. But maybe just a little bit of self-awareness and acknowledgement of how ridiculous and convoluted this whole thing is. I mean, we saw some of that in Interstellar and in Inception in some of those movies, but we don't really see it here, and it doesn't really do a good job of humanizing these characters. I wish John David Washington's character was a little bit more humanized. But like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really fun. It has some really good action. It's definitely the best movie I've seen this summer. That isn't saying much, but like I said, it's really good to be back in the theater for the first time since I think February or March. I think it was the first week of March was the last time I was in the theater. But yeah. But like I said, anyway, back to this movie. Really entertaining, really fun. I think a lot of people either really love this movie or not really get it. I'm kind of somewhere in between. But yeah, if I had to grade this movie, I'm probably going to give this a 3.8 out of 5. I thought about it. 3.8 out of 5, I think, is a good grade for this. I couldn't quite get it to the 4 just because I don't know how much I'm going to really rewatch this one over other Nolan movies, if I'm being completely honest. It is entertaining. There is some really great action here. There is some really great visual stuff here. And I will definitely see this movie again at some point. Probably sooner rather than later. But like I said, it's not going to be a Nolan movie that I'm going to rush out to see, like I would say Inception or the Dark Knight movies or even Interstellar would be for me, which are all movies that I love. And Memento as well. Put that one in there. And The Prestige. And pretty much every other movie. But I do like this one. I would probably put this one above Insomnia and Following, I would say. And um, maybe Dunkirk. Maybe. But yeah, it's a good movie, and it's got some good action, it's got some good fun, and it's definitely a solid movie. If you're trying to go back to theaters, like I said, check it out. And if not, whatever. But yeah, it's not the best Nolan movie. There is problems I have with it, but I'm sure I will like this movie more and more, and it probably will climb up to a 4 to if I watch it again and enjoy it more, maybe even higher. Who knows? But as of right now, after first viewing, it was good, and it was really entertaining. And like I said, the plane crash sequence where they crash that plane into the building, holy cow, amazing. I mean, I don't even know how they got permission to do that. Well, money, obviously, but beyond that, but yeah, like I said, really good movie, really fun action. 3.8 out of 5, but that's all I gotta say. Thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah, I look forward to doing more of these as more things come out. And I'm looking to expand this out beyond just movies. I just think movies are the easiest because, you got that barrier of time between the preview and the review because you got to go, you know, watch the movie. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Follow me on social media. Check out the Instagram page. Check out my Twitter, YouTube. I'm going to get video going. I know I didn't get the video, but I'm getting videos going. So all of that will be coming soon. And yeah, that's all I got. And also, Jack, next time he's on the podcast, we will be talking about this movie again. So please, if you haven't seen it, watch it. And then, we'll get there when we get there. But thanks for watching, and